Oh, thank you very much. Eventually, I get to speak. It's kind of difficult to speak at the end because everybody has sort of taken on your ideas. So I'll just see what I can say. My name is Thebe from the University of Botswana. Today, I'll be talking about sustainable management of rock art sites. In the abstract, they say, or it's written Tsodilo and Manyana, but for reasons I'll say shortly, I've since moved at Manyana and Matsieng site just because of the university project we are doing at these two places. So in this talk, I hope to be able to show you that we can actually use rock art sites to be a voice for the voiceless, and most importantly, to see how we can come up with a holistic approach to manage rock art sites. I'd like to start with a disclaimer and talk about my favorite book. It's by the former president of Botswana, Sekitimile Masire, an amazing statement. He once said, in life, in his book, he says, you must either be very brave or very foolish. So I think in our management of rock art sites, we need to have or take very brave decisions or very foolish in the way we manage and protect sites. We need to be decisive. And even better, our new president, Botswana is a new government, so I need to align quickly. I've moved away from the old party. Our old president also says that we must have the sniper mentality. We need to be very focused in things that we do. So even with the rock art site, we need to be decisive and know how we are going to manage and protect these sites. I think a lot of time we are very indecisive. We meet here, we talk, we go to different places. I don't think this is useful. Now, in terms of my presentation, I'll just give you a quick history in terms of this project. I am a big fan of pragmatic history of sense-speaking class or people. I'm a big fan of the underclass. So coming from that background, having worked with Ed Wilmson and Jim Dembo for many years in the Kalahari Desert, we are now starting a project at the University of Botswana to look at San communities. And our project is totally different. We do a bit of rock art interpretation. We acknowledge there is rock art interpretation, but our project is holistic in that it looks at communities where rock art exists. Specifically, we are starting with Matsieng and Lakwani, and we are taking a historic, ethnographic, anthropological approach. I'll unpack that for you in a short time. But what we are trying to do is that we are trying to look for issues of connectivities between the past and the present, not to say that the past is equivalent to the present. And the way we are doing this, that we are taking a social geographic approach. We are going into these villages, we are unpacking the histories behind these villages, we are looking at the ethnicities behind these communities, we are looking at the anthropological composition of a lot of these people. Quite often we think that these people are just Tswana people, but as you see later on, it's a whole composition of people who got to make a good layer of these sites that we are dealing with. Our project also looks at issues of identity and belonging and perception about these sites. So we have research project students who go out to interview people to know what they think and believe about this site, how they perceive them. We believe if we can get perceptions and views about the site, we'll be able to ensure effective management of these sites, regardless of ethnicities, Merafi, etc. So we are taking that ethnographic approach. We appreciate this rock art interpretation. We want it to be done, but we believe nobody is rock art interpretation. So hence we are saying we need to be very brave or foolish in the terms of how we manage archaeological sites. Now, in terms of Botswana, the sites that I'll look at are here. I don't even know how to use the pointer now. But anyway, this Lakwani is right here in northeast Botswana, and Matsieng is here in southeastern Botswana. I don't think I have time to talk about Manyana. Manyana will also be southeastern Botswana. I chose this site because of the preservation challenges these sites are facing, especially Manyana and Matsieng. I believe if we take a social geographic approach to manage these sites, we can go a long way. It's not just the scientific approach that works, because these people have always existed around these sites. They've always been part of these landscapes. Now, in terms of Botswana, we do have a lot of archaeological sites. Tsodilo Hills is one of them, up in northwest Botswana. We have rock engravings in Mamono. We have amazing paintings at Savuti in the national park. These paintings are well protected because there are elephants and lions there. You don't have to worry about anything. These are the real custodians of the sites. Now, we tend to have rock art sites, obviously, in areas where we have outcrops and hills. In Northeast Botswana, where I hope to be able to talk a little about, we have sites here around Francistown. If you can see from my map, there are a lot of sites. And to be told there are very few sites in northeastern Botswana is not necessarily correct. I've been able to plot quite several sites there from the database, museum, if I may acknowledge it. And then also around Pico area, Lepokolo area, we did get rock art sites there. Coming down south, we do get Matsieng footprints that Louis talked about, and I'll be able to amplify what he said. And Lakwani, Guda talked about it, so I'm just amplifying. If you're looking for a presentation for me, you're in the wrong place. My job is just to amplify what other people are saying, to add a new layer to it. Now, in terms of geography, the Matsieng site is completely located in a different setting compared to Lakwani site. It sits along the Notwani catchment area, which is a major drainage in southern Botswana. Most sites in southeastern Botswana connect with the Notwani drainage system, whether it's Iron Age, Stone Age, etc. And here we do get outcrops of sandstones, stretching sometimes for 100 meters. And it is a good platform, as you all know, to execute and have very good rock engraving in the area. Louis he spoke about the deep geological formations that we find in the site and what they mean to communities, etc. So we need to look at that layer, which is just important for the site. Now, going up north, we have Lakwani. Lakwani in southeastern Botswana, also located along the tributary drainage system of the Tate River system. So there's a big connection there between the two rivers and the location of the sites. But in Lakwani, we tend to get granites that are very good for rock art preservation. The sandstones are ideal for making engraving, even the same way when you go towards Mamono. Now, in terms of research, it's a bit unfair to say there's not been much research done in Botswana. There has been some research, especially from 1999. My job is not to talk about it. My job is to say, let us use these research projects now to benefit communities. Research for research of interpreting is not useful. Let us take this holistic approach and empower local communities with the paintings or through the paintings or the engravings. And I want to say that, of course, in Botswana, we celebrate Tsodilo is the most important site. But beyond Tsodilo, there are other more important sites that we can look at, that we can market. The other day I mentioned what goes Tsodilo, we have beautiful rock art. But in terms of execution style, motifs, etc., there are other more outstanding rock art sites that we find in the country that need to be given a voice. Hence my presentation, The Voice for the Voiceless. So we need to give them that agenda. And here below, we can see Savuti Hills with elephant paintings. The famous Vanderpost panel, then Tsodilo, also very important for public presentation of archaeologists like the White Lady of Brandberg. So the Vanderpost panel is very important there. But for me, we should market the dancing pennies as the most important one. People go there in large numbers. I think there are about 2-3 site managers here. They might agree with me on that one. So now, we are not here to do any lecture, but for me, I find a few sources very important. There is a book by Thomas Ranger that influences my approach to this project that we are doing at Tsodilo, Voices from the Rocks, basically about public perception, interpretation, and use of Matopo Hills. To the local community there, Matopo Hills are a shrine, a spiritual home, but to the scientists and Cecil Rose, it is a commercial, aesthetic area. So these contradictions are perceptions that I want us to look at and think about as we engage in terms of the management of rock art sites. And another important source that we are using here in Botswana, we also, Isaac Shapira has also left a lot of literature that can help us to have information about Tswana people and their composition and their spirituality. Again, we need to take a lot of information from this, probably the best ethnographic study done in any other ethnographic group from Africa, among the Bakgatla. We can use this information to enhance sites like Matsieng, to look at how Botswana for a very long time have used these sites and landscapes. I mentioned Matopo Hills because of his connection with Tsodilo Hills. And obviously, Ed Williamson's book, Landfill with Flies, is also useful in terms of how we can look at the underclass, the subaltern, to say how can we use these sites that previously belonged to the underprivileged but are now enjoyed by the main domain groups. This is where the study is coming from. And I don't need to convince anybody about that. So these are some of the sources. Now, one of my favorite publication to have come is by Peter Schmidt on community work and engagement in Africa. Every student of mine must read this book on community engagement. It's a very good book of a bottom-up approach of a community in Tanzania. It's not about rock art, but how they set up one of the best examples of community-based projects focusing on decolonizing knowledge in Southern Africa. It is a useful source that can inform us in terms of how we can have deep appreciation of the history of these places we are at, and most importantly, how we can engage communities in the management of these sites. Now, another thing that I find very important is sometimes if you retreat, unpack, and go back and sit down with communities, we do oral interviews, we do ethnographic interviews, we do historic interviews, we look at the archives, we realize that there is a lot of power in the naming of these sites. For example, a site like Matsieng is a creation site. The name Matsieng is a Tswana site, but it's originally a hunter-gatherer or a site. It is originally rock engravings that were designed or executed by hunter-gatherers, but it is celebrated by who? Tswana groups. So there we get some kind of contradicting identities in terms of how we engage with communities in Botswana. When the site does not favor you, it's a sense site, but when you get economic empowerment, it becomes an important site for you. The same thing with potters. I work a lot with ethnographic potters. It's my space, but I'm now entering this new space because I want a new challenge. With potters, women make pots. Immediately, the money starts coming through, men start to control and dominate and control the craft. So these are the contradictions we're talking about. And so I'm saying, sites like Matsieng, there's not much stuff on site. Maybe people should come at night and see these sites because we can't see the engravings very well during the day. So I think one of the things that we need to talk about, stop telling us that the site, Remoroka, it's like at 6 o'clock. Open the site at night, hire people at night for them to enjoy the sites, to pray at these sites and appreciate them. Because with the rock engraving site, it's so hard to see things during the day. So for me, working hours for monuments are not that useful. So the creation story of Matsieng, which is a Sotho-Tswana legend or story, is very important in terms of creating narratives about the site. I know the guys are going to be looking at those feet there for that guy, the giant Matsieng. I took this from Instagram. I'm following this lady there because she's always writing about archaeological sites. She goes to different sites, and then every time she goes to a site, she writes how she connects with the site. In her last visit, she went to Matsieng. Again, I'm saying let us use this social media to market and these sites. She went there, she says she removed her shoes so that she could connect and feel the engravings and the environment. But frankly, if people work on engravings bare feet, chances of damaging them are not that. We can debate on that one. But for me, let them feel and connect with the site. then the site will have meaning. And if I just read quickly here, she says, stepping where legend walked, the Matseeng footprints, an extraordinary encounter with history and heritage, where ancient stories leave their mark on earth. I thought that was so good. And Nick Walker goes on to talk about the footprints. We are walking the footprints of ancestors. Now, this is some of the types of engravings we find at Matseeng. They are not as clear as we see them here. There's a lot of photography involved to bring them like that. They are footprints, toe prints, arrows, dots, a few. But my worry is that over the years, some of these paintings are slowly disappearing. The global warming, is it people affecting them? What should you do about it? I know Nick Walker some years ago created a wooden deck. It was the shortest wooden deck I've seen in a rock art site. You talk about the longest, 15 minutes. I'm not, my last, 5 minutes I'll do. So he talked about these abstract drawings and rock art at Tsodilo Hills. So these are some of them that we find there. And again, these are some of the paintings that we also find, engravings we find at Matseeng. That's the size 10 there. Was a size 10. But if you were size 4, guys, you are also well represented at Matseeng. So you do have some identity with the site. Your site is also there. Our 11 is there. The water holes are also very important at Matseeng. We learned that historically they were used to water cattle. Now historically, currently they are used for spiritual purposes, etc. Now if you close the site at 7 o'clock, some of us want to pray at night and with some privacy. So these are some of the engagements we need to talk about if you have to manage this site. Again, another source that I really like so much is by Webb and Doro, Your Monument, Our Shrine. Webb and Doro basically calls on us to look at issues of identity managing rock art sites. He says, some of us, we go to Nlakwan, we go to Matseeng. These are our scientific, economic sites. But to the local community, these are spiritual sites. So as much as we want to develop research projects and market these sites, we also have to allow for community engagement. That's what you guys have been talking about. And places like Nlakwani, I was talking to Guda. She was telling me that I can't speak Kalanga myself. Though when I do my DNA, I'm from Uganda. I have Bushman blood. You all have Bushman blood. Don't laugh at me. It's 15% Bushman. Some guys here, I think 20 here. Look at them. So, etc. So anyway, we do have places like Nlakwan, which are basically named after spiritual healers, just to show you the power of these places. Guda talked about how these sites are used for rainmaking, etc. Now, Nlakwani, basically, it's important for me because of the type of red rock art or painted art. It is good art for me because it's brush painted, it's not finger painted. It's also good in execution and in shamanistic interpretations. It's not for me this time to talk about the interpretation, but all these figures here you can see they are shamanistic. Just like Matseeng, Nlakwani also has several natural places that are interpreted in terms of spirituality. Back in Gauteng, I'm saying, and you guys have been saying it, we cannot just market archaeological sites as rock art sites. We need to bring in other layers. And I believe the potters there in Gauteng, who are declared World Heritage Site as part of the intangible World Heritage landscape, if you like, or craft, are also important. If you put all these layers together, people can go to Matseeng, they can visit the potters, they can go see Mudipani Hills. Then the package for a rock art site will be more convincing. Guda also talked about the different layers that we can put to these rock art sites, including things like, I think we can also have things like harvest a day there. We can have several ceremonies, and if you put them together, people of course will come to these sites because they want to see the sites, but people also come for the occasion to celebrate. And I'm saying here, though they can come for a day or two, they can come for a day or two at these sites. You can actually use those ceremonies and festivals to take them to archaeological sites, and the impact will be meaningful there. Harvest Day, we can use that to educate them about these archaeological sites and their importance. And then I talk about some of the layers we find with these sites. Like for my PhD, I also look at potters in Morocco area, very close to where we intend to hold the workshop next year, a rock art workshop for Cosmo. So we hope to be able to use some of these sites like potter sites for excursion purposes. I've already talked about our approach in terms of the project as a holistic social anthropological approach to understanding rock art sites. I think this is what I want you to take from this. I also talked about the need to be very brave, as Masire will say, former president of Botswana, and decisive about managing site, or choose to be foolish and stay in your hometowns and don't develop some of these sites. So that is one thing. The other thing I talked about is that we need to have the sniper mentality, as that our president talks about. We need to be very decisive. We need to be focused and decide. Let's not just meet at these conferences and relax. Again, here we see some of the ceremonies and festivals that are held in Gauteng. Again, the music there is listed ahead of the rock art. So let us package rock art with some of the mega existing tangible, intangible heritage packages. This one is just a classroom list of what we can do to manage the sites. A lot of them have been covered. But one thing that I want to pick here is that lately people are going to health. They do bushwalks. I don't know about Banali, Tsodilo bushwalk. So let us use some of those to raise awareness about sites. And again, I have a list of what we can do there in terms of the size. But I want to conclude by again going to Peter Schmidt's work to say that when villages and other settlements are removed from heritage landscape, the core meaning of that landscape are removed with them. So for me, I think this most relevant thing to say that let us help people connect in terms of identity, belong with the landscape. Let us deal with this landscape. Let's ensure that people become core part of this landscape by being part of them. So I think I don't want to talk about a lot of stuff because my time is out, but a lot of you have covered. I don't even know why I presented because everything was covered. But I have one testimony to make. Last night, I lost my glasses. Couldn't find them. And then him and I had a few drinks. He went into trance, I eventually went into trance. In the morning, I walked right to security because of that shamanistic trance thing. I found my glasses. Had I not gone into trance last night, I would have not seen my glasses. So these things are real, guys. That is my testimony. And sorry, I'm a teacher, I can talk forever.
I wonder what ideas you are infusing into people's minds with the trans idea that I supposedly went into. Colleagues, let's invite questions. Have one. Any other?
Thank you so much, Doc, for the presentation. My question is regarding if the cultural astronomical aspect of the heritage site has been realized, that these sites align to certain celestial bodies. Khutziwe, in his paper, when he talked about Bakgatla Bakgatla, he explored there. He said the Botswana people had the knowledge of how these sites are aligned. So if that has been explored. Another thing, if, because I think the Botswana heritage is both in South Africa and in, so how do you consolidate those two geographies?
Okay, I think I should take this because they're quite packed questions very quickly. I have a question for you. Do you believe in trance? I thought that much. Okay, fine. Now, you're asking me a very good question in terms of cosmology and astronomy. And there's a guy, I don't know, maybe we should link him with Baymont because Baymont is into astronomy. I don't know about the sites, but for me, if you go into these communities, whether it's true or not, and you create your west and east, and you say this engraving is looking to the west or east because of this, that narrative is good. Whether it's true or not, if we can use that to market the site, to create excitement about the site, it is okay. If you can tell people walk next to the engraving, you'll be walking next to the footprints of your ancestors. There is a book by Professor Tsodilo, the late Lesotho professor. Very good book on the Tswana myth and creation about the Matsieng footprint. It's not just in Botswana. Yes, you are right. It's cross-border. So maybe you are saying to us, let us look at cross-border cultural management of this archaeological landscape. Your Lakwani, we can link with Matopo and Zim guys here. Your Matsieng, we can look at the Bakgatla landscape and the whole hegemony and leadership being controlled by Botswana as part of that country for Bakgatla. So yeah, you are really talking sense, I think. Yeah. Me too, 12%.
That's specific. With no further hands, thank you so much, Thebe. Let's late.
If you just can go back a couple of slides, we missed something that you were saying there, that if we could just take a photo of that, because we didn't really speak to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For me, I'm not fuzzy. I can share my slide. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that Botswana, we don't have money now. The diamonds are not selling. Government does not have money to manage monuments. Now, what we are trying to do under the new president is too early to see if it's good. Maybe not. We'll see. But we are trying to come up with things like an investor model where we are saying investors must come and invest in these places and partner with communities. So we have this triple P model, public-private model. My colleagues here talk about community-based natural resource management. So these are some of the models we are using in Botswana, well-structured models coming from wildlife, but are very beneficial in terms of how we manage this heritage. So we have very good frameworks to tap from in terms of these sites.